Calling to order the meeting of the Bridges and Tunnels Committee. Do we have any public speakers?
We have one public speaker, Murray Bowden.
Hi, Dave. I want to talk about the changing environment and changing world we live in. Just both of these gentlemen over here you're going to honor today. The fact that I can have a conversation with them is so important. For me to be able to come and talk to you is very important. We're in an age of new communications. Things are being done differently than we did before. I've been in communication with Dan, know Dave a long time. Know some of you, Jose back there, I know him a long time. Hi, Jose. But my time's over. Dave, you might consider it too. Time to let my grandchildren and your grandchildren, hey, we have some experience, but the steps forward have to be done by the next generation. Spoke to somebody this morning about taking some videos that they were of a particular item. And what they said was, the people my age said, we can't do that. And the people in the middle age said, yeah, let's think about it. And the kids said, sure, it's easy, let's do it. That's the change that's happening. So those of us that have some historical vision, let's tell the young people to implement it. We have the background, they have the ability to go forward. I want to thank all of the people, especially various security agencies, for taking care of my back. Couldn't do it without them.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Second? All in favor? All right. Are there any changes to the committee work plan?
No changes to the work plan.
All right. Dan, I turn it over for your remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon and welcome to the October MTA Bridges and Tunnels Committee meeting. I'd like to start off today's meeting by recognizing the heroic life-saving actions of members of our Bridges and Tunnels workforce. Would Director Ray Higgins, Operations Superintendent Rosalind Martin, Bridges Tunnel Lieutenant Ruben Torres, Bridges Tunnel Sergeant Anthony Volpe, Deputy Director of Maintenance Carlo Giambanco, and Senior Maintainer Jonathan Perillo, please join me, as well as Madam Chair. Rich.
On October 8th, Lieutenant Ruben Torres, Sergeants Edward Grimm and Anthony Volpe, and Bridges Tunnel Officer Peter Lovrano coordinated efforts to successfully prevent a motorist from jumping off the Robert F. Kennedy Bridge. Sergeant Grimm was on duty in the Operations Command Center when he received a call from the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, alerting him that a young woman had picked up a mental health hotline phone on the RFK Bridge and stated that she intended to jump off the bridge and had left a suicide note in her car, which she had parked on the Queens side. Sergeant Grimm, not able to be with us today and represented by his commanding officer, Mark Klosner, relayed the information to the RFK desk officer, Peter Lovrano, who was being represented by his commanding officer, Ray Higgins, and they were able to determine the location of the hotline phone. Lieutenant Ruben Torres and Sergeant Anthony Volpe quickly responded to the scene and safely removed the woman from the bridge, where she was taken to the hospital for evaluation. Sergeant Grimm then followed up to find and notify the woman's family so they could be reunited with her at the hospital. I'd personally like to thank them for all they do every day, not just on special days like this.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone. These heroic actions are part of a team effort. That's why you have health and safety, you saw maintenance, you saw operations. This phone was recently installed, and new language on the corresponding sign was just incorporated as part of B&T's proactive approach regarding suicide prevention. I would like to thank Eric Osnes, MTA Director of Safety Programs Management Tony Watts, and the rest of the B&T Safety and Health team for their work on this, coordinating efforts with the mental health experts from Columbia University and New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, also with our engineering, our maintenance, and our operations team. So truly a team effort, great job. The day it happened, I called each department head and I said, we saved a life today, how does it feel? So it feels pretty good. So thank you, everyone. I also want to mention next Sunday, 2 Sundays from now, November 3rd, is the New York City Marathon. So MTA Bridges and Tunnels works with the organizers for this event, with NYPD and other city and state agencies. And as you know, the Verrazano Bridge is the starting place for this event. So we're rocking and rolling, getting ready for this since the end of last marathon. We've been getting ready for this marathon. So that'll be in a couple of weeks. Lastly, today marks an important milestone in Bridges and Tunnels' efforts to support the MTA capital program and reduce traffic congestion. B&T is requesting approval of a contract to design, build, operate, and maintain systems and infrastructure for the Central Business District Tolling Project. This competitive procurement was based on extensive evaluation process, and given the aggressive timeframes, it's worth noting that we are presenting it for approval ahead of schedule. So with that, if there's no questions, I'd like to have the report on operations. Rich Hildebrand.
Thank you, Dan. The report on operations begins on page 21. Paid bridge and tunnel vehicle traffic increased by 0.6% in August as compared to the same month in 2018. For the 12 months through August, B&T's average daily traffic exceeded 900,000 paid vehicles for the first time in its history. Preliminary figures indicate that paid vehicle traffic increased by 2.3% in September and 2.9% overall for year-to-date through September compared to the same periods in 2018. Bridges and Tunnels continues to transition its safety enforcement tactics. While indirect methods of safety enforcement, such as issuing summonses, remain an important part of B&T's safety enforcement approach, Bridges and Tunnels has increased its use of more direct methods, such as the pacing of vehicular traffic with marked vehicles in periods, in periods of higher collision risk. This shift is reflected in the 22.7 decrease in summonses issued for the year to date through August compared to the same period in 2018, as shown on page 41. Unless there are questions, this concludes the report on operations.
Okay, any questions? All right, to Eric for the safety report.
Thank you. The customer collision rates have improved over the past 12 months compared to the previous 12 months. The total collision rate for the 12 months through August 2019 is slightly better than the previous 12 months and significantly better than the 12 months prior to that. The collisions with injury rate for the 12 months through August 2019 is 15% better than the preceding 12 months and is slightly better than the 12 months prior to that. Employee and contractor safety metrics are as follows. The employee lost time injury rates continue to improve, and Bridges and Tunnels recorded a 33% decrease compared to the same period last year. Contractor injury rates have increased for the 12 months ending August 2019, but are lower compared to the 12 months before that. And that ends the safety report.
Thank you. Any questions for Eric? All right, then Allison for the financial report.
The financial report begins on page 42. At $866 million year-to-date through September, support to mass transit was more than $18 million higher than the mid-year forecast. September year-to-date toll revenue was at the forecast level of $1.55 billion, and operating expenses were $382 million, which was below forecast by $15 million. The 2019 mid-year forecast and 2020 preliminary budget materials were presented at the July Finance meeting. Unless there are questions, this concludes the report.
Any questions for Allison? All right, Joe Keane for the capital program status report.
Thank you. The capital program report begins on page 59. In the month of September 21, task level commitments were made with a total value of $81.2 million. This includes the design-build contract for the construction of the new Harlem River Drive direct connector ramp from the RFK Bridge, valued at $50.2 million. For the year to date, B&T has exceeded its goals in the number of commitments awarded. The dollar value of these commitments is below goal, due in part to good bid savings. Our remaining major commitments are on track for award by year end. Recently received bids and proposals for most of these remaining commitments have been favorable versus budgeted values, indicating a competitive bid climate. We anticipating awarding our remaining major program commitments by the end of the year, while realizing significant good bid savings in the program. For completions, B&T has completed an additional project in September valued at $12.1 million for enhanced overhead vehicle detection in our tunnels, bringing our overall year-to-date completions to $166.1 million, slightly exceeding our year-to-date goal of $165.4 million. The two remaining project completions planned for 2019 are on track to be completed on schedule by the end of the year. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the capital report.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, Brian, for procurements.
Procurements start on page 66. There are no non-competitive procurements or ratifications. There are 3 competitive awards this month. The first award, which was previously mentioned, is for a design, build, operate, and maintain contract for the Central Business District Tolling Program, infrastructure, and toll collection system in the total amount of $507.2 million. The total amount includes $248.1 million for the design build of the system and infrastructure, and $247.5 million for operation and maintenance for a 6-year period, and $11.6 million for early go-live incentives. The second is for design build services for fender protection and fire standpipe systems at the Bronx Whitestone Bridge, and the negotiated amount of $17.7 million. The third is for construction administration and inspection services for project VN 84A and VN 11, and the negotiated amount of $15.6 million. There are 2 personal service contract modifications. The first is to increase funding to the as-needed inspection, design, and engineering support service contract with a panel of 15 engineering consultants and the aggregate amount of $38 million. Individual work orders will be issued predominantly through a competitive selection process to support authority needs. Lastly, there is a personal service contract modification to add construction support services for project VN 84A and the negotiated amount of $7.1 million. The total amount committed for these actions is $585.66 million. Unless there are questions, these procurements are described in detail in the enclosed staff summaries.
Yes, Veronica.
Not a question, but a comment. Often the actions and the highlights in this committee fly under the radar. And I do want to take a moment to impress and highlight this historic moment of this committee and this action that we're taking. I actually started my career in transportation advocacy on congestion pricing specifically. So the movement of the TransCorp procurement is incredibly important to me, to this committee, to this agency overall, as the first city in this country to implement congestion pricing. So I don't want this to fly under the radar, because this is an incredibly important and historic moment. Those of you who are leading this, including yourself, Allison, and of course, our President Danny, because I don't want to butcher your last name, Danny. I just want to say that all of you are at the helm of this very important moment. And for those of us who've been concerned about traffic congestion and safety and equity and environmental issues in New York City, this is a key moment, and not just New York City, in the region. So what we are doing here today should be that model. We already know cities across the country are clamoring for congestion pricing and are looking very closely at this moment, how we set up this model. And I just want to thank you all for your leadership, and of course, at least my 12 years of history and my colleagues to bring us to this moment. So thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I echo Commissioner Vanterpool. Congratulations on meeting this milestone and on meeting it early. Is there a motion to approve the procurement? Second?
Is this just for TransCorp, or is this all 4?
I think this is for all four. Do you have a recusal?
Yes, I wanted to vote in favor of the TransCore, but I need to recuse myself on the other three. They involve either recently former or current members of the LIA.
So noted.
Not all of them, some of them.
All right. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. I forgot to let you say that.